Ladies and gentlemen, when people talk about change, they often mention big, faltering moments, the promotion, the move, the complete transformation. But the truth is, the most significant change rarely happens in a single leap. It happens in inches, not miles. It happens in how you wake up, the conversations you have, and the decisions you make when no one is watching. Improving yourself daily isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming more of who you're meant to be. This journey begins with 6 simple yet powerful principles. Why small steps matter more than big leaps when the day starts. We're all at the same starting line. The sun rises for everyone, but what we do with those first few moments is what sets our path apart. The first decision you make in the morning is often the most important because it sends a signal to yourself. Winning that first small battle creates a ripple effect. It's a declaration to your mind that you are in control, that you can direct the day instead of letting the day direct you. The temptation to just drift is always there. Maybe it's the lure of endlessly scrolling on your phone before your feet even touch the floor. Or maybe it's convincing yourself you'll get to it later. But later is dangerous. Later is where momentum goes to die. By claiming a win immediately, you interrupt that drift before it gains any power. It doesn't have to be dramatic. You don't have to run 5 miles before breakfast or conquer your inbox before the sun is up. It could be something as unassuming as making your bed with care, as if you're preparing a space for a more disciplined version of yourself to return to at the end of the day. Science supports this. Researchers at the University of Texas found that people who achieve a small task early in the morning are significantly more likely to complete larger and more challenging tasks later on. Why? Because each small victory whispers a powerful truth into your subconscious. I am someone who follows through. That belief is like oxygen for self-discipline. Once you breathe it in, you start making decisions that match it. Think about the mechanics of momentum. A pump doesn't gush water the moment you touch it. You prime it. You apply consistent, small bursts of effort until the water begins to flow. That's what a small win in the morning does. It primes your mind, your focus, and your sense of purpose. Without it, you're asking yourself to go from 0 to full speed later in the day, and most people never quite make it. I once met a soldier who had spent years in high-stakes environments where discipline wasn't optional. When I asked him what lesson from the military stayed with him the most, he didn't talk about courage under fire or complex strategies. He said, if you can't do the little things right, you'll never do the big things right. He explained that in the field, it wasn't the massive heroic actions that determined survival. It was the consistent, almost boring, discipline of small daily tasks, keeping your gear clean, checking your equipment twice, and following a morning routine without fail. Those habits built the trust and readiness needed when life threw the big tests their way. It's easy to underestimate the impact of something so small. But small is powerful because it's achievable, and achievable is repeatable. When you win that first battle of the day, you carry the confidence from it into the next thing you do. That's why people who start their day with intention don't just complete more tasks. They approach each one with more energy and focus. Some might argue that mornings are chaotic and that they can't afford the time to focus on a small win when they're already rushing. But here's the truth, the chaos is exactly why you need it. Starting the day with something simple and controlled is like planting a flag in the ground before the storm hits. It's an anchor point. When the emails start piling up, meetings run long, or the unexpected happens, you've already proven to yourself that you have the capacity to bring order to at least one part of your life. And here's where it gets deeper. It's not really about the task at all. It's about the identity you're building. Every morning, win is a vote for the kind of person you want to be. When you make your bed, you're not just straightening sheets. You're reinforcing the idea that you value structure. When you drink that glass of water before your coffee, you're reminding yourself that health comes first. When you write down your 3 most important tasks for the day, you're declaring that you will act with purpose instead of reacting to whatever comes your way. We all want the big victories, the promotions, the business launches, the fitness transformations, the financial milestones. But those don't just appear out of nowhere. They're the result of thousands of tiny, almost invisible wins stacked on top of each other. You can't leap to the top of a staircase, you climb it one step at a time, and those first few steps, they happen in the morning. Even on days when everything else seems to fall apart, that first win matters. I've had mornings where I made my bed and set my goals, and then watched the rest of the day spiral into meetings, emergencies, and delays. But at night, when I returned home to a bed that I had made, it reminded me that I had started the day on my terms. That reminder kept the chaos from defining the entire experience. It's not about perfection, it's about direction. The small win points you toward the person you want to become. The more you repeat it, the stronger the habit becomes. And habits are the scaffolding of our lives. They hold us up when motivation wavers, when circumstances get tough, when uncertainty creeps in. So, tomorrow morning, before the world has a chance to impose its agenda on you, give yourself a win. Choose something so small you can't fail, yet meaningful enough to set the tone. It might feel insignificant in the moment, but its impact will echo through the hours that follow. You'll notice you're more focused in meetings, more patient in conversations, and more willing to tackle the hard things. And that's the magic of starting with one small win. It teaches you that discipline is less about giant leaps and more about steady, deliberate steps. When you own the first step, you make it easier to own the second, and before you know it, you're not just winning mornings. You're winning days, weeks, and months, and eventually the life you've been striving for. It all starts with the choice you make in the first moments after you wake up. The smallest choice in the quiet of the morning has the power to decide the story of your entire day. We live in a world that loves the highlight reel, the final victory, the gold medal moment, the big reveal. Social media shows us the finished product, the success story, the before and after. But what it rarely shows us is the in-between. The early mornings when you feel like staying in bed, the late nights when you push through even though no one is clapping, the hundreds of small steps that never get celebrated. And yet, that is where the real magic happens. It's easy to be inspired by the idea of the summit. But if you spend all your time staring at the peak, you'll miss the rock right in front of you that could make you stumble. Every worthwhile journey has a process, and it's in the process where character is built. The finish line is just a moment in time. The process is a lifetime. It's where you develop discipline, resilience, and patience, the very things that will carry you forward when the initial excitement wears off. Athletes don't win championships because they wake up one day suddenly ready to dominate. They win because they've spent thousands of hours training, repeating the same drills, correcting the same mistakes, and showing up when the crowd is gone, and the only sound is their own breathing. Think about the difference between wanting something and preparing for it. Wanting is easy. We all want more success, better health, stronger relationships, and financial freedom. But preparation, that's the hard part. Preparation is unglamorous. It's doing push-ups when no one is counting. It's turning off the TV to read when the book isn't even halfway done. It's putting on your running shoes when the weather is miserable. It's resisting the temptation to look for shortcuts because you know deep down that shortcuts might get you somewhere faster, but they won't make you stronger. The process is what shapes you into the kind of person who can actually handle the outcome. You might dream of running a marathon, but if you were magically transported to the start line tomorrow without any training, you wouldn't make it past the first few miles. The process, the months of running in the rain, pushing through sore muscles, and building endurance, that's what transforms you into someone capable of crossing that finish line. Without the process, the outcome is meaningless. With the process, the outcome becomes inevitable. When you focus on the process, something powerful happens. Your sense of progress changes. You no longer feel defeated because you're not there yet, because you realize there isn't a single point. You start to measure success in small victories, the extra rep at the gym, the new word learned in a foreign language, the fact that you made your bed when you didn't feel like it. These small wins stack on each other, and before you know it, you're standing somewhere you never imagined you could reach. Motivation is a spark, it's exciting, it lights you up, but it fades quickly. Habits are the firewood that keep the flame alive. When you build habits, you no longer rely on feeling like doing something. You do it because it's who you are. The writer who writes 500 words every morning, no matter the mood, will have a finished book one day. The person who sets out to lose weight and commits to walking for 30 minutes every evening will find themselves healthier over time, even if the scale doesn't move right away. Habits outlast moods, they outlast seasons, they outlast doubt. And here's the thing, falling in love with the process means you start to enjoy the journey for its own sake, not just as a means to an end. You learn to appreciate the quiet moments, the daily discipline, the steady climb. You find pride in the repetition because you know that every small action is a brick laid in the foundation of your future. This doesn't mean you abandon your goals. It means you approach them with patience and trust. You stop trying to force instant results and start trusting that consistent effort will take you further than bursts of enthusiasm ever could. The mountain peak will always be there. The question is, will you enjoy the climb enough to keep going when you're tired, when the path is unclear, or when the weather turns against you? Because if you only care about the peak, you'll give up halfway when you realize it's farther than you thought. But if you care about the climb, if you value each step, each lesson, and each moment, you'll keep moving forward no matter what. So, when you think about your dreams, don't just picture the finish line. Picture yourself training in the dark, working quietly when no one's watching, and showing up on the days you'd rather stay home. That's the process, that's where growth happens. And one day, when you finally reach the summit, you'll realize the view is beautiful not just because of where you are, but because of how you got there. Improvement and comfort have never been good roommates. One thrives on stretching, pushing, and testing limits. The other is happy to keep you where you are, wrapped in familiarity. And yet, so many of us cling to comfort as though it's a life raft, never realizing it's the very thing keeping us from reaching the shore. Growth demands that we step into the unfamiliar, that we allow ourselves to feel awkward, unsure, even afraid, not once in a while, but on purpose. Often, it's easy to believe that progress is about refining what we already know, polishing what we already do well. But true improvement lives at the edge of our abilities, where our knees shake and our voices falter. That's the space where transformation begins. Think about it. The first time you learned to swim, drive, or even tie your shoes, it was awkward and uncomfortable. You probably got water up your nose, stalled the car, or fumbled with the laces over and over. Yet, you didn't stop. You leaned into the discomfort because the alternative was staying unable to do something you knew you needed to master. This principle doesn't fade as we grow older. In fact, it becomes even more vital. When life settles into predictable patterns, our skills plateau. Our thinking narrows. We may not notice it day by day, but over time, comfort becomes a quiet cage. Breaking free from it means deliberately placing ourselves in situations where failure is not just possible, but probable. Because it's in those moments when we risk falling that we truly learn to stand taller. Science backs this up. A study from Yale University revealed that our brains literally form stronger neural connections when we face new challenges. Every time we step into the unknown, our minds are rewiring themselves for resilience and adaptability. This isn't just poetic imagery, it's biology. The discomfort you feel when trying something new is your brain's way of expanding its capacity. You are, in a very real sense, building a stronger version of yourself neuron by neuron. But knowing this and doing it are two different things. The problem is our instincts pull us toward the safe and the familiar. We avoid the meeting where we might be put on the spot. We scroll instead of signing up for the class that intimidates us. We dodge difficult conversations because we fear the sting of rejection or the weight of awkward silence. And yet, every time we do this, we trade an opportunity for growth for a momentary sense of ease. I remember meeting a shy, introverted designer. He was brilliant at his work, but avoided the spotlight at all costs. Public speaking terrified him. His natural instinct was to stay behind his computer, letting his design speak for him. But one day, he made a decision that changed everything. He volunteered to give short presentations every Friday to his small team. The first few weeks were brutal. His hands trembled, his voice wavered, and he couldn't wait for each talk to end. The months that followed weren't much better. He stumbled over his words, lost his train of thought, and often left the room convinced he had embarrassed himself. But he kept showing up. Week after week, discomfort became a companion instead of a threat. Slowly, his voice found its strength. His words found rhythm. His ideas began to land, not just in his designs, but in the hearts of the people listening. 1 year later, I watched him walk onto the stage at a major conference. Hundreds of eyes were on him, and instead of shrinking, he stood tall. He spoke with authority, humor, and clarity. The audience leaned in. That moment wasn't built on talent alone. It was built on a year of willingly stepping into the fire, letting the heat shape him instead of scaring him away. This is the paradox of discomfort. The very thing we avoid is often the key to becoming who we want to be. Courage isn't born from reading about bravery or admiring it in others. It's forged in the act of doing, in the shaky voices, the sweaty palms, the awkward pauses. Courage lives in every step you take outside your comfort zone, even if that step feels small to the world. The truth is, you don't have to seek grand, dramatic challenges to grow. It could be as simple as introducing yourself to a stranger at an event, saying yes to a project you've never done before, or sharing an idea in a meeting where you'd normally stay silent. These moments may seem insignificant, but they stack up over time. Each one adds a brick to the foundation of your confidence. Each one teaches your brain, I can handle this. And before you know it, you're standing on a much higher ground than when you started. The beauty of seeking discomfort on purpose is that it shifts how we see fear. Instead of interpreting it as a warning to stop, we begin to see it as a signal that we're in the right place, the place where growth happens. It's not about recklessness, it's about intentional challenge. You're not walking into danger for the sake of it. You're choosing to stretch yourself because you understand that comfort is temporary, but growth lasts. And here's the thing, the discomfort never fully disappears. The designer I told you about still feels butterflies before big presentations. But now he recognizes them not as a threat, but as a reminder that he's pushing himself. That's the point. The goal isn't to eliminate discomfort. It's to learn to carry it with grace, to let it sharpen you instead of stop you. The life you want, the skills, the confidence, the resilience, will not arrive while you're standing in the same familiar spot. It will meet you on the other side of the things you're avoiding right now. So raise your hand, make the call, take the step. Not because it's comfortable, but because it isn't. That's where the transformation is waiting. There's a truth about human nature that we often overlook. We are deeply influenced by the company we keep, not just influenced, shaped, molded, sometimes even defined by it. We don't live in isolation. We're social creatures wired to learn, adapt, and mirror the energy around us. This is why the people you spend the most time with matter far more than you think. You can have all the discipline in the world, but if you are surrounded by voices that whisper limitations into your ear, those whispers eventually turn into your inner voice. And if you are surrounded by people who believe in possibility, who see challenges as opportunities, their belief starts to seep into your bones. There's a saying, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Some hear that and shrug it off as just another motivational cliché. But think about it for a moment, not in theory, but in your actual life. Look at the people you talk to most, the ones whose opinions matter to you, whose habits you see every day. Are they lifting you higher or pulling you down without even realizing it? If those 5 people are chronic complainers, resistant to change, and always finding a reason why things can't be done, you'll inevitably begin to adopt the same patterns. You may not notice it at first. It might start with small concessions, tiny moments when you think, maybe they're right, maybe it's not worth the effort. And before long, you're not moving forward anymore, but the reverse is just as true and far more powerful. If you spend your days with people who are ambitious, optimistic, and dedicated to improving themselves, you can't help but be pulled forward. Their energy becomes your energy, their drive becomes your drive. You rise to meet their level because you no longer want to settle for less. Improving yourself every day isn't something you do in isolation. It's not just you against the world. We like to imagine the self-made person, the lone wolf who grinds in silence and emerges victorious. But that's a myth. Even the greatest achievers have mentors, peers, friends, and supporters who push them beyond their limits. We need people who see potential in us when we can't see it ourselves. People who hold a mirror up to us, not to flatter us, but to show us where we're playing small. People who call us out when we're making excuses and who remind us of our worth when doubt takes over. There's a story of a young runner who spent years training with Olympic athletes. Every day in practice, he came in last. No matter how hard he tried, he was always trailing behind. To some, this might have been discouraging, but he stayed. He absorbed their discipline, their mindset, and their pace. He got used to chasing the fastest, strongest runners in the world. Then came the day of an important race, a race without the Olympians. For the first time, he was competing against athletes who weren't quite at that elite level. And when the race began, something incredible happened. He broke his personal record. He ran faster than he ever had before. Not because the race was easier, but because his standard for what was considered normal speed had been set so high in training. The actual competition felt like a lighter load. This is the power of environment. When your baseline for effort is shaped by people who are extraordinary, your own performance naturally rises to match it. You don't even have to think about it. It's a byproduct of the standard you've been living in. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine training every day with people who never push themselves, who coast through every workout, who tell you it's fine to settle. Over time, your definition of enough will shrink. Your potential will be capped not by your own ability, but by the ceiling they've chosen for themselves. And here's the dangerous part. You won't even realize it's happening until years have passed. We are constantly becoming like the people we are closest to. This happens in subtle ways: the language we use, the beliefs we hold, the risks we're willing to take, and the dreams we think are possible. If your circle believes the future is bright, you start to see possibilities everywhere. If your circle believes the world is against them, you begin scanning for evidence to prove them right. That's why choosing your circle is one of the most important decisions you will ever make. It's not just about friendship or comfort. It's about the trajectory of your life. You need to ask yourself, do the people around me inspire me to be better, or do they make it easy for me to stay the same? Some people will challenge you in ways that feel uncomfortable. They'll push you to take risks and to go after goals that scare you. They won't let you off the hook when you're capable of more. These are the people who pull you forward. They are the ones who see the gap between who you are and who you could be, and they refuse to let you ignore it. And yes, there's another side to this. Surrounding yourself with people who pull you forward doesn't mean abandoning everyone who's struggling or imperfect. We all have moments when we need support, but it does mean being intentional. It means knowing who feeds your growth and making sure they have a consistent presence in your life. It means balancing compassion for others with commitment to your own potential. If you want to become extraordinary, normalize being around extraordinary people. If you want to become resilient, normalize being around people who handle challenges with grace. If you want to become driven, normalize being around those who chase their goals with everything they have. 'Cause here's the truth: no matter how strong you think your willpower is, your environment will shape you just as much as your effort will. If you want to go far, you can't walk alone. You need people who light the path ahead, who remind you where you're going, and who walk beside you with the same determination you carry in your heart. And when you find them, when you find the ones who make you want to be better just by being in their presence, hold on to them, because they are not just friends or colleagues. They are your training ground, your fuel, and your proof that growth is possible. They will pull you forward even on the days you feel like standing still. And one day, without realizing it, you'll become that person for someone else. At the end of the day, when the noise fades and the world starts to slow, there's a moment that belongs only to you. It's that quiet pause before sleep, when the demands of the day have lifted and you're left with nothing but your own thoughts. This is the perfect time to ask yourself two simple but profound questions. What did I do well, and what could I have done better? These aren't just casual reflections. They are the building blocks of growth, because self-improvement isn't about being relentlessly critical of yourself. It's about cultivating awareness, and awareness is the gateway to change. You cannot improve what you refuse to see. When you reflect, you hold up a mirror to your day, not to punish yourself, but to understand yourself. Imagine a sculptor working on a block of marble. Every day they chip away, refine, and adjust. They don't look at the work at the end of the day and say, "I failed because it's not finished." Instead, they recognize that each small, intentional stroke is progress. Your life works the same way. You are both the sculptor and the sculpture. Reflection is your way of seeing the strokes you made today, so you can decide which to keep making tomorrow. One of the most powerful tools you can use for this is so simple, it's almost laughable: a journal. Not a beautifully bound, leather-covered tome that intimidates you with blank pages, but a plain notebook or even a notes app on your phone. In it, you write down 3 things: one thing you learned, one thing you're grateful for, and one thing you'll improve tomorrow. That's it, 5 minutes of your time, but those 5 minutes have a compounding effect that most people will never experience cause they never commit to it. Over time, that journal becomes more than paper. It becomes a map of your evolution. You'll see how your challenges shifted, how your thinking deepened, and how the things you once struggled with became second nature. Think of it this way. Companies spend millions, literally millions, on performance reviews, quarterly assessments, and feedback systems. Why? Because they know that feedback fuels progress. They know that without evaluating the present, they cannot improve the future. And yet, as individuals, we often move through life without giving ourselves even 5 minutes of that same attention. We expect growth without measurement, results without reflection. It's like trying to drive to a new destination without ever checking the map. You'll get somewhere, but it may not be where you intended to go. Reflection is also an act of self-respect. It says, my growth matters enough for me to pay attention to it. It's easy to fall into the trap of believing that reflection is indulgent or unnecessary because life is moving so fast. Direction is the counter-compromise CHAOO becomes. Reflection is what slows you down just enough to correct your course. Without it, you might be sprinting toward a future you never wanted. With it, you ensure that every step you take is aligned with the person you're becoming. And here's the beauty of it. Reflection doesn't just change your actions, it changes your perspective. Let's say you had a day full of challenges. Without reflection, you might label it a bad day and go to bed feeling frustrated or defeated. But when you pause to ask yourself, what did I do well? You begin to notice the small victories you overlooked in the moment. Maybe you handled a tough conversation with more patience than you would have last year. Maybe you found a creative solution to a problem that's been nagging you for weeks. These moments matter, and when you acknowledge them, you give yourself credit for the progress you're making, even if the day wasn't perfect. The second question, what could I have done better, is where the real magic happens. It's not about shame or guilt. It's about clarity. It's your chance to identify the gaps, not so you can beat yourself up, but so you can fill them tomorrow. When a pilot lands a plane, the crew doesn't just celebrate and walk away. They go through a post-flight checklist, reviewing what worked and what didn't so the next flight can be even smoother. You deserve the same diligence with your own life. Gratitude, the second element of the journal exercise, is not just a feel-good practice. It's a perspective shift. When you actively identify something you're grateful for, you train your brain to see abundance instead of scarcity and opportunities instead of obstacles. This doesn't mean ignoring the challenges, it means balancing the scales. Gratitude doesn't erase struggle, but it changes how you carry it. And when you carry it differently, you have more energy to face it. The third element, deciding one thing to improve tomorrow, turns reflection into action. Without this step, reflection can become passive, even paralyzing. But when you pair awareness with intention, you create momentum. You're telling yourself, I'm not just noticing where I can grow, I'm committing to growing. That's a powerful promise to keep. Over time, this daily practice will sharpen your self-awareness in ways you can't imagine right now. You'll start noticing patterns, habits that lift you up and habits that hold you back. You'll see the impact of small changes compound into significant results. You'll realize that improvement isn't about dramatic leaps. It's about consistent steps taken with purpose. There's also something deeply human about ending your day this way. We live in a world that constantly demands more from us, more productivity, more efficiency, more output. Reflection is a quiet rebellion against that constant push. It says, I am more than my to-do list. I am paying attention to my being, not just my doing. And ironically, when you care for your being, your doing improves naturally. The truth is, reflection is a skill. And like any skill, it improves with practice. At first, it may feel awkward, even forced. You might struggle to think of what you learned or what you could do better. But stick with it, because with time, you'll find that you don't just reflect at night. You start reflecting in the moment. You'll catch yourself mid-conversation and think, I could approach this differently. You'll notice your reactions as they happen and adjust in real time. That's when you know the practice has become part of you. In the end, reflection is not about dwelling on the past. It's about designing the future. It's about using the lessons of today to create a better tomorrow. And when you do this consistently, something extraordinary happens. Your days stop blending together into a blur of busyness. Instead, they become chapters in a story you're consciously writing. A story of growth, resilience, and purpose. So tonight, before you rest, take those 5 minutes. Ask yourself the 2 questions. Write down your 3 things. Do it not because someone told you to, but because you respect yourself enough to pay attention to your own life. Because the truth is, no one else can do this for you. No one else knows the full depth of your victories, your lessons, your gratitude. This is your journey, and the more you reflect, the more you'll realize you're becoming someone worth reflecting on. Most of us live in a world where the clock feels like our greatest enemy. We pack our days so full that by nightfall, we're left wondering why the big changes we dreamed of still haven't happened. We want transformation to be immediate, tangible, and visible, and when it's not, we feel discouraged, even defeated. But that's because we often overestimate what we can achieve in a single day, yet grossly underestimate what we can achieve in a year, or 5, or 10. The truth is, self-improvement isn't a sprint, it's a lifelong marathon. It's not about how fast you can get to the finish line, but about whether you're willing to keep running when the crowd has gone home and no one is watching. The path of growth is rarely a straight line. There will be days when you leap forward and days when you trip over your own feet. You will encounter moments when you feel like you've slipped backward, undone the progress you've worked so hard to achieve. And that's okay. The measure of your journey isn't whether you stumble, it's whether you get back up, dust yourself off, and keep moving forward. It's in those quiet, private choices made away from applause or recognition that your true character is formed. Think about the bamboo plant. After planting the seed, you water it, nurture it, and nothing happens for 1 year, then 2, then 4 years, maybe even 5, of tending to something that appears lifeless. Your neighbors might even laugh and tell you you're wasting your time, but beneath the surface, a miracle is happening. The roots are spreading wide and deep, creating a foundation so strong it can support extraordinary growth. Then, seemingly overnight, the bamboo shoots upward, growing 80 feet in a matter of weeks. It wasn't magic. It wasn't sudden, it was the result of years of invisible work. You are no different. The growth you crave, the discipline, the skill, the confidence, the impact may not be visible right away. It might feel like nothing is happening, but every small improvement, every tiny habit, every single day you choose to do the work instead of waiting for the mood to strike, is a seed being planted. The roots are forming, the foundation is strengthening, and one day, when it looks to the outside world like you've suddenly become successful, you will know the truth, that it was years of patience, perseverance, and invisible work that made it possible. The challenge is that we live in a culture obsessed with immediacy. We want results yesterday. We expect skills to come quickly and rewards to show up instantly. But anything truly valuable takes time. Great relationships aren't built in a weekend. They are built over years of shared experiences, trust, and commitment. Businesses don't thrive because of one lucky month. They succeed because of consistent effort, adaptability, and resilience over many seasons. The same goes for personal growth. The version of you that you're striving to become is not going to emerge after a week of trying. It's a commitment you renew every single day, knowing the payoff might not come until long after you've started. Imagine a young musician learning the violin. The first few months are full of squeaks, missed notes, and frustration. No one applauds those early sounds, but day after day, the musician practices, corrects mistakes, and builds muscle memory. Over time, the awkward notes begin to form melodies. Then years later, people are moved to tears by the beauty of the music, never realizing that behind that moment of brilliance are thousands of hours of unseen, unglamorous practice. That's the long game. What makes the long game difficult is not the effort, it's the patience. It's resisting the temptation to compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. It's trusting that the work you're doing today matters, even if the world hasn't noticed yet. It's having the courage to keep showing up when the results aren't visible, the applause hasn't come, and the finish line is nowhere in sight. Playing the long game requires faith, faith in yourself, in the process, and in the principle that growth is often invisible before it's undeniable. The irony is, the slower you think you're going, the more meaningful the progress often is. Quick wins feel good in the moment, but they rarely build the resilience, depth, and wisdom that lasting success requires. And here's the beautiful thing, every small choice counts. Every time you choose to read a book instead of scrolling aimlessly, you're feeding your mind. Every time you choose a healthy meal over junk food, you're investing in your future health. Every time you have a difficult conversation instead of avoiding it, you're building stronger relationships. None of these moments may feel life-changing on their own, but together they are the slow, steady drumbeat of transformation. In life, you will be tempted to abandon the marathon and chase a sprint. You'll see people seemingly leap ahead, and you'll wonder if you're falling behind. But remember, the people who sustain their success are almost always the ones who spent years building something solid before the world noticed. They learn to value process over speed, consistency over flash, and depth over shortcuts. When you commit to the long game, you stop asking, "How fast can I get there?" and start asking, "How far can I go if I just keep going?" That question changes everything. It shifts your focus from urgency to endurance, from immediate gratification to long-term fulfillment. It allows you to make peace with the setbacks because you know they are just temporary chapters, not the end of the story. Your job is not to predict when the breakthrough will come. Your job is to keep laying bricks until it does. One brick a day might feel insignificant, but over time, you'll have built something unshakable. And when you finally see the results, they won't be the fragile kind that collapse under pressure. They'll be the kind that can withstand storms because the foundation runs deep. So, if today feels slow, if the progress feels invisible, if you're tempted to give up because the finish line is nowhere in sight, remind yourself that bamboo takes years to grow underground before it ever touches the sky. Your roots are growing, your foundation is forming, and one day, when the time is right, you'll rise higher and faster than you ever imagined. Not because you rushed, but because you were willing to wait, to work, and to play the long game. Improving yourself every day isn't about chasing perfection. It's about progress, small, steady, and intentional. It's about understanding that the version of you 6 months from now will thank you for the choices you make today. So start tomorrow with one small win, love the process, seek discomfort, choose the right people, reflect daily. Play the long game. Your life isn't going to change all at once, but it will change. And when you look back, you'll realize that the inches you climbed each day added up to the miles you never thought you could reach.